So this video is gonna be about arms. This is a video I wish I had when I first started working out. It's gonna be pretty fairly simple about like 3 arm exercises that blew up my arm development, especially if you do it correctly. One thing I've realized that most people typically do when they first start working out in the gym, they start doing like push pull legs or PPL. I honestly wish I zoomed out in this video, but it's okay. You guys get the gist. So anyway, the three movements are going to be dips, overhead extensions, and hammer curls. In this video, you're going to see weighted dips though, because they also have great carryover to your bench, your chest, your shoulders. Quite frankly, like dips are probably one of the best movements to do for your upper body if you haven't done them already. Just because the way it carries over. For example, for me, I feel like I would have never hit 315 if I didn't have like a solid tricep development in a sense. But before I go more into detail about that, I feel like the biggest issue why like some people really don't have the arm development that they want, it's just a case of like, so typically when you do push pull legs, like everything else can grow perfectly fine, but arms is typically at the end of the workout. And one thing I've really started doing this year, or like let's say I want to say like yeah, especially this year, is that I've started like training like a certain body part of mine like first, just because like you're like imagine you're a car, right, and you're trying to drive from point A to point B. In the beginning, when you're driving to like let's say the thing's 100 miles, so let's say between mile 1 and 10, you're like almost at a 90%, so you're driving at like pretty good capacity. But as time goes on, like let's say you're at time I'm saying like too much. Let's say you are mile like 70 to 80. You're not going to be as capable as you were when you're like at 1 to 10. I really have a bad habit of saying like. But my point is, so you want to do something where you're like you have more energy to do it in regards to your capabilities. Perfect example is when I do back. When I Back is one of my weaker points. This is a completely random tangent, but stay with me now. Back is one of my weaker body parts. And one thing I've started to do since I want to say January of this year, I've started training back first. Just because I've realized that like instead of me trying to do back with like let's say chest, where I'm gonna say I have a decent chest. I don't think I have the greatest chest in the world, but I feel like I have a fairly decent chest. I think back should be a day towards itself. Now anyway, so the whole point of me mentioning that tangent is when you're training something, you want to do it with like the most max amount of intensity possible, if that makes sense. So anyway, long story short, when you want to do hammer curls, I know like that whole thing was a drawn out, but there was a reason. You're mainly doing it for your long head, which adds to most of your mass. Like typically when people do triceps, you're looking to get that shoehorn, that the horseshoe. I don't know. I said shoehorn. I don't know what's wrong with me today. But which really is like a strength builder overall. But besides that, I just feel like if you're not doing them, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Anyway, the next exercise is the overhead extension. Most men, most guys, I don't want to make this a sexist thing. Most people in general who work out and do arms don't typically like use like an overhead extension. Do some overhead work rather, which is why like the long head doesn't grow. Like people always do the medial and the lateral, but the long head is just as important. Like it's like a well-oiled machine. You can't do one without the other. So anyway, the last one is a hammer curl. Another thing I'm also realized, like hammer curls have really helped me like grow like my bicep and my forearm, which is to break your radialis. I can never say that word, but it sits between your biceps and your forearm, and it pushes it, which makes you look like more thicker and dense. I didn't give any rep ranges because I don't think it's important for me to give rep ranges to you guys because like most people typically just do 4 sets of everything, which isn't ideal. I mean, when you're a beginner, you can do anything. You can do a jumping jack and build muscle, but that's slightly an exaggeration. But my point is, like, when you do something, you want to just make sure you're doing it to the point where, like, you're do intensity, form, longevity, and consistency are your best friends. If you don't do none of these things with like any of those things I just mentioned, it's kind of like redundant in a sense, just because the biggest thing is Biggest thing is I realize most people do, like when they do a workout, they do it because they wanted to do optimal. Like a perfect example is Bulgarians. I don't really like to do Bulgarians. I don't know. I'm talking about every other body part but arms. Let me come back. Barbell curls. I don't like barbell curls. They hurt my wrists and they feel uncomfortable. I feel like I'm trying to like eagle lift anytime I do a barbell curl, which is why I don't really like do them. So compared to like an easy bar curl or like a hammer curl or a dumbbell curl, what's the tricep workout I like? Let's say regular skull crushes. I don't really like them. I don't like skull crushes either. I like the incline variation better. I'll do it, but I don't particularly like it. But the biggest thing is sometimes you gotta do things. I don't want to get that's bad advice. Well, it's not bad advice, but that's not always like the best way to like see things. Just because if you don't like something, you shouldn't always just force yourself to do it. Anyway, this video is a little bit all over the place, but my three would be weighted dips, overhead tricep extensions, and hammer curls. Hope this helps.